This is FIN, comprehensive coverage of the global financial markets.
So, how does a country go from being one of the poorest in its region to, well, one of the richest on the entire planet? Is it just sheer dumb luck, or is it all about brilliant long-term planning? When it comes to Norway, the answer is, well, it's a fascinating mix of both. Let's really dig into the Norwegian paradox.
You've got to picture this. It's 1969. We're in the cold, rough waters of the North Sea. An American oil company has drilled over 200 failed wells. They're about to pack it in. But on their very last contractually obligated drill, a geologist named Max Melly sees this golden glow in a rock sample. And that one moment, it would change the destiny of an entire nation forever. And I mean, the change was dramatic. Just look at this. Back in the 19th century, Norway was a struggling kingdom. Most people were uneducated, just trying to survive in a really harsh climate. Fast forward to today, and it's a global powerhouse where 1 out of every 4 citizens is a millionaire. So how on earth did this unbelievable transformation happen? Okay, so here's how we're gonna break it all down. First, we'll look at exactly how Norway got so rich. Then we'll dive into how they managed to avoid the infamous oil curse, which is a huge deal. We'll also cover their next mind-boggling discovery. And then we're gonna ask a tough question. Have they become too rich for their own good? And finally, we'll look at what the future holds. You know, it really all starts with a story of just incredible luck. There was this American company, Phillips Petroleum, and they were completely fed up. I mean, they had drilled well after well and found absolutely nothing. They were convinced there was no oil and were totally ready to pack up and go home, but the Norwegian government insisted, nope, you have to drill one more hole. And this is how a series of dominoes just fell perfectly into place for them. It starts in 1959, when a huge gas discovery in the Netherlands gets everyone interested in the North Sea. Then, in 65, Norway signs this crucial agreement that defines its sea borders almost without realizing how important it would be. And then, just 4 years later, that very last reluctant drill hits the jackpot, the massive Ekofisk oil field. It was just a perfect storm of good fortune. But here's the thing you have to understand. Striking oil isn't automatically a golden ticket. For a lot of countries, it's actually the beginning of a total disaster known as the oil curse. So what is the oil curse? Well, it's when this massive flood of money from resources actually ends up ruining the economy. Think of countries like Venezuela or Libya. All that new money gets concentrated in the hands of just a few people, local industries totally collapse, and it often ends in protest and conflict. This was the trap that Norway absolutely had to avoid. So how did they do it? This is where the smart part of our story really comes into play. See, Norway made a series of deliberate, absolutely brilliant choices. For starters, they already had strong democratic institutions to keep corruption in check. Then, they declared that all the resources belonged to the people, not to private companies. They resisted that temptation to just cut taxes, and instead they taxed the oil industry heavily and poured that money back into education and welfare. And, crucially, they created a massive savings account for the future. And when I say massive, I mean it. This is the size of Norway's government pension fund, which everyone just calls the oil fund. It's the largest sovereign wealth fund on the entire planet. To put that in perspective, that's about $356,000 for every single man, woman, and child in Norway. And the whole point? To make sure that when the oil eventually runs out, the wealth is still there for generations to come. Now, you'd think that one history-altering stroke of luck would be enough for one country, right? Well, you'd be wrong, because believe it or not, lightning can strike twice. Norway has just stumbled upon another resource that could actually dwarf its oil wealth. In 2023, geologists down in southwest Norway discovered a phosphate deposit of at least 70 billion tons. Okay, let that sink in. That nearly doubles the entire previously known global total. It's an absolutely staggering, mind-blowing amount. So why is this such a big deal? Why is phosphate the new gold? Well, it's not just some rock. It's basically the foundation of modern life. It's essential for the fertilizer we need to feed the planet. But on top of that, it's a key ingredient in electric vehicle batteries, solar panels, and computer chips. For Europe, which relies so heavily on China and Russia for this stuff, this discovery in Norway is a total geopolitical game changer. Okay, so Norway is lucky, they're smart, and now they're even luckier.
Sounds like a perfect story, right? But this is where the paradox really deepens, because an increasing number of analysts are starting to ask a really difficult question. Has all this wealth actually made Norway complacent and even vulnerable?
Just look at this chart of Norway's exports. It tells you a huge part of the story. That giant purple slice, over 60%, that's oil and gas. The country has done very, very little to diversify its economy. And in a world that's trying to move away from fossil fuels, that is a massive risk.
Now, on paper, Norway's economy looks incredible. You often hear that it has one of the most productive workforces in the world, even more productive than innovation hubs like the United States. But that's kind of an illusion, because once you take the hyper-efficient oil and gas sector out of the equation, a totally different picture emerges. All of a sudden, Norway's productivity drops below many of its peers. That oil wealth is basically masking an underlying economic mediocrity. And you can see signs of this complacency everywhere. Take R&D spending, for example. As you can see here, Norway invests just about 1.5% of its GDP. That is less than half of what its neighbor Sweden spends. That's really not the sign of an economy that's focused on innovation for the future. And it's the same story when you look at entrepreneurship. At a time when startups are booming all over the world, Norway has seen its lowest number of new companies created since the 2007 financial crisis. It lags way behind its Scandinavian neighbors in venture capital, and that's despite having the world's biggest state investment fund.
Now, this one is perhaps the most worrying of all, the education system. Norway spends more money per student than any other country in the OECD. You'd expect them to have the best results, right? Yet their student scores in math and science are actually below the average. That suggests a major disconnect between investment and outcome. And here's the kicker. While the state is saving trillions, the people are borrowing like crazy. Norwegian household debt is over 200% of their income. That's the highest in the world. And it's being fueled by a housing crisis and tax policies that make speculating on real estate one of the only attractive investments for ordinary people.
So where does all of this leave Norway? You have a nation that's been blessed with these incredible resources and a history of really wise governance, but now it's facing these deep structural challenges that were born from its own success. So what does the path forward even look like?
This comparison right here says it all. When oil was discovered back in the day, the entire nation was united. The decision was unanimous: develop it quickly for the public good. But this new phosphate discovery, it's being met with political resistance and all sorts of environmental debates. The Socialist Party has even managed to halt mining permits. That national consensus that built Norway's wealth, it seems to be fracturing.
So here's the crucial takeaway. The Norwegian model isn't just one thing. It's a really powerful combination of being dealt an unbelievably lucky hand and having the smarts, the institutions, and the foresight to play that hand almost perfectly. But that brings us to our final big question. As the world changes, as oil becomes less and less important, and as this internal complacency seems to be growing, is that winning formula from the past going to be enough to guarantee success in the future? Or will Norway need to find a new way to actually work for its wealth?